All right. And I'll drop that link in a second.
I wish I had a mirror so everybody could see like this thing. I mean, that is really something. Even the 360-degree panoramic view.
Isn't it ironic that it sees everything but itself?
Yeah. Or can't it?
I was not ready for that.
No.
You'll learn not to talk if you don't want to be on camera.
Right.
Don't even breathe loud
Mm-mm.
because it senses it, I think.
It knows.
It does. The owl knows all.
We should name them.
I don't know where's the prototype. Not yet.
That's the whole thing. I can talk to you about it later.
Sorry.
I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, I am too.
Me too. I can't wait to see what this guy says.
We
need this screen to be shared, right?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen,
Yeah.
then we can go ahead and get started.
Entire screen 2 share, and here. Let me take this Chrome window and tuck it away. Okay.
There you go.
All right. Can you guys see that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the bevies.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Alex also says he can.
Well, that's good. There's nothing like hitting play and sharing your presenter view with people. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. Swell. Well, wow, what an honor. It's awesome. Good evening, everyone, and that's here in the room, you two OwlCam, and folks that are remote. I'm very excited to be here at the Lansing ACE. So I'm Neil Mansola. I'm a developer advocate at Atlassian, and I'm here to introduce you to our serverless app platform called Forge. And the team I'm on is called Developer Experience. And our team's mission is to, we love the word unleash the power of developers in our ecosystem. We want to help inspire, educate, support developers that build apps and integrations, whatever kind of developer you are, whether you're a solution partner, a marketplace partner, or even an in-house developer, an admin, a power user, we're here for you. So this talk is called Forge in 40. It's a quick intro to the Forge platform. We're going to cover the benefits of the platform. I'm going to show some use case examples of what you can build. And so Forge can really help you unlock a next level of extensibility of our products. And whether you're building the tools for yourself or for your team, or heck, maybe you're going to even build an app that serves thousands of teams worldwide, and because you're going to post on the marketplace, Forge really is something else. If you've been around the Atlassian ecosystem for a while, it's quite different than what we've done in the past, and I'm going to cover a little bit of that too. So, how many of you here know what Forge is? Yeah, wow, that's more hands per capita than I usually see in the room, which is awesome, because usually I get this, no hands at all. So Forge is what we call it's our next gen platform for extending and customizing Atlassian cloud products. Significant advantages over previous app development frameworks we've had, both on the server DC as well as the cloud side. It was built with the purpose of kind of having a great developer experience, improving performance, enhancing security, and just help developers build apps that are very flexible, powerful, and deliver a great customer experience. So perhaps you're not a developer and you're thinking, well, who's using it and why would they use it, or why would I use it? So I'm going to start by saying that some of these groups that I created, these little buckets, are just more general of kind of who's using Forge today. Of course, first we have developers. After all, this is a app development platform. We have admins and power users that build apps just for their own orgs. Forge was built to be really easy to get started and get building out of the box. So we're seeing that end users are starting to use Forge and improve how they work with their products. Partners, both solution partners, marketplace partners. We have more marketplace apps built on Forge than ever before. And this is kind of a big one for us, we're Atlassian team members ourselves. Like, there's thousands of apps that have been built internally, which is, maybe you kind of compare it to our former cloud platform Connect. That really wasn't the case, right? So when you have that internal adoption of something, that bodes well for something that, when you're building kind of trying to take a platform approach to things. How many people here actually have been to the Atlassian marketplace? Gosh, again, more hands, which one really surprises me when I see hands down. I'm like, really? So you can find really great examples of like the central power tools that, customers that have awesome UI integrations and back-end automation features. With more and more of them are being built with Forge, which I'm going to highlight a few of those a little bit later on. And it wouldn't be a Prezo without showcasing some very large, impressive numbers. More than 6,000 apps in the marketplace today. And in-house apps, I mean, we can only extrapolate because, a lot of the server DC things don't necessarily, the on-prem doesn't necessarily phone home and tell us that, but we've extrapolated there's like tens of thousands of just custom apps that people build, whether they're tiny little scripts or whatever. And we're seeing that as our customers are migrating from on-prem to cloud. Oh my gosh, the baggage, like, I mean, the number of things that they just build, they're like, oh, how do we get this thing over? And a lot of them are starting to lean on Forge as well. So a majority of the customers rely heavily on apps. In fact, over 70% of Confluence and Jira Cloud customers have at least one app, but realistically, it's usually the number is a lot higher than that. And when it comes to like the importance, I guess you don't just take my word for it. There's, I think January 2023, we crossed the 3 billion in lifetime sales for apps. It took 7 years to reach the first. It only took 2 years after that to reach the 2nd billion, and in just a little over a year, we crossed the 3rd billion in sales for apps. Nice. So you think like numbers like these, 6,000 apps, billions in sales, that everything in the world has already been built, and every use case has been addressed. But I'll assure you, and I don't have to assure you, I'm sure you can assure yourself that that's not the case. I'm sure as a user, you probably have some use cases and things that you'd love to see, apps built for. And when you dig into the origin story of some of the apps, like some of the most flourishing and popular apps, you're going to hear that often it started with like an end user or an admin just trying to fix a little problem, something to make their lives a little bit easier, and something that solved their own little problem. So something to make their work experience just a little bit better. And that's what it really comes down to. And it's about solving a problem and delivering some value for whoever you're building it for. So depending on what your role is at your company, perhaps, or even like on your technical level, you might be asking like, well, why in the hell would I use this thing? And what kind of thing could I build or should I build? And sometimes inspiration for what you build starts with something small, like an itch you need to scratch. And so I'd like to share a personal story about something that I built, not on Forge, because this goes back a ways back in time. Anyone know what this thing is? You do? You do. What is that thing?
It's like, it's a trencher.
That's exactly what it is. It digs trenches. It digs trenches.
I saw Ditch Witch and I saw those. I know what that is.
Yeah, the Vermeer Ditch Witch. So several years ago, my wife had a business selling industrial equipment. And for the things that she couldn't sell directly within her network, she'd list them on eBay as like the last resort, right? Just kind of blow these things out. So this is more than just several years ago. This was back like in the summer of 2005. So pre-smartphones, pre-mobile apps. And anyway, in this story, a buyer was interested in, that's my wife, by the way, not really her. I haven't shown her this deck yet, so I'm not sure she'd agree with that picture. Yeah.
Unhappy wife.
But back then, there was a person who was interested in this trencher that she listed. It was indeed a Ditch Witch. And they submitted a question on probably like Friday evening, I think it was. And the question was like, how quickly can you arrange shipping? But of course, again, no push notifications, nothing. So problem was that he asked the question on our Friday evening. My wife got the message on Monday and said, man, yeah, we can have that thing like on a pallet and ready to go. And unfortunately, he said that we had to source it from someplace else because we needed the trencher and we didn't get a response. Not, it was no hard feelings, but my wife was just devastated, like, how in the hell could we let this happen, right? So she asked me if I could build something. I'm a software engineer after all, to send her like an SMS, right? So with some clever like hackery, and I built a really shoddy, unreliable proof of concept, but it worked. And my wife was quite happy. And yes, and she had a BlackBerry, or I had a BlackBerry, she had a flip phone. But that's really all my little app did. It just kind of scraped some stuff off of my.ebay.com and then looked for messages that came through, and I just sent her a text message. So fast forward to 3 years later, eBay announced that they had a new marketplace opening up. And my wife said, why in the heck don't you turn this into an app and get it on there? And I'm like, well, I hadn't thought about that. Right? I really built this thing. It was just actually her and a couple of her people in her network used this app. And the thing was so shoddy, it just fell over all the time. Well, anyway, long story short, I did it, right? We grew it. I turned it into like a multi-tenant SaaS app. We ended up as a launch partner on their marketplace. Within a few months, from sending like 2 to 3 messages per seller, like for the 3 or 4 people that had it, we're sending thousands of messages to like hundreds of sellers.
Dang.
It was just in the US, but like it could have been more, but we just couldn't go international with it because we didn't know how to deal with telecom in Europe. But as I said earlier, like sometimes it starts with something small, like a wee little app. Like it was probably about like 80 lines of code when I first built this thing, and that I built it into something real. But we solved our own problem, right? And you never know like kind of where that inspiration is going to come from. So that small little thing that you're fixing or you're addressing for yourself, if you were to build something, let's say for Jira or Confluence, who knows, right? What it could potentially turn into. So on to the agenda. We're going to start with a quick live coding demo to show you how easy it is to build your very first app. I'm going to introduce, like, give a little bit deeper into like the benefits of using Forge, a little bit more live coding, and then finish up with a peek under the hood for the fundamentals. So we're kind of gonna jump forward into more something, actual code, and then we're gonna go back and then try to discover like what the hell is that stuff that was all over your screen. All right. So first thing you do when you learn a new language, you build a Hello World app. Yeah. Basically, just have bring Hello World. About how many here say that you're a developer or have development experience? Some, yeah. Oh, everybody. Gosh dang, this is the best ever.
We could actually build an app in this ACE.
I love it.
With our experience, right?
Yeah.
Great. So Forge apps built JavaScript or TypeScript. We're going to use JavaScript. We're going to create an app. We're going to test it, deploy it, and then install it on a personal dev instance of mine. How long do you expect it should take to stand up a Hello World app, deploy it in the cloud, install it, and test it on a live Jira instance? How long do you think that might take?
5 minutes.
That's right. Yeah. Well, normally,
If you don't know, I mean, I would say if you had never seen the software before,
Mhm.
maybe like an hour.
Yeah. And
But we know it's faster because
Yeah.
we used it.
That's
So,
true. Well, if you were to do it like with a traditional, stack
Yeah.
where you had to host everything yourselves, you'd be spinning up an instance someplace else. The fastest path might be some kind of service like a Heroku, right? But like if it's going to be in Amazon EC2, you're going to have, You're going to have to maybe spin up an RDS if you need a database. But yeah, we're going to do it in 4 simple steps.
Mhm.
And I'm going to try to, now this is where I jump out of Keynote and let's do it from here. So here we go. We'll do a Forge create. Hello. Lansing.
Oh,
You spelled it right and everything.
Oh yeah. Let's go with Kit, Jira, and Jira issue view. Issue panel. There we
That's
go.
what you did, Jared.
Yeah, there you go.
So for those that are remote, is the text big enough for you? Or maybe you can see the screen share yourself. Does it look?
Yeah,
it's readable. All right, swell. All right, swell. So what we did here,
Yep, they say it's good.
Great. I just typed in Forge create. So prerequisites here. I installed Node.js. I installed the Forge command line interface tool, and so I just typed in one command: Forge create. I chose from a bunch of templates, pre-baked templates, and it created this directory called Hello Lansing. And there it is. And so there's a few files in here. This is called a manifest. We'll get into this later, which basically is like the blueprint for your app. Shows like which modules you're using. Modules are like building blocks. I'll get into that too. What else? Oh, here's the actual source code. And you can see like in all of its complex brilliance, it's going to say hello world. Lovely. So let's change that to say hello Lansing. Okay. Let's do what will be next. make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, so we're gonna do a Forge deploy. This is gonna just do some lint checking, some syntax checking to make sure there's no errors in the code. Then it's gonna bundle it all up, package it up, and it's gonna put it into the cloud environment. Now we're doing this. There are 3 environments you get when you for every Forge app. There's development, staging, and prod. We're working in the development environment, and so hopefully this works pretty quickly. The next step after this is actually installing it. So we're kind of like side loading it. So if I type Forge install, it's going to ask me. So I'm logged in, obviously, under my account as well. I used Forge login command. Let's put this on here. And by the way, you can get your own. You should get your own free development environment. Just go to. There's a URL for that. And a non-expiring dev environment. You get 5 users, 1 JSM agent, and it never expires. Okay, so there it is. It should be installed. Let's crack open the browser. Okay, here we go. No, I didn't. There we go. All right. And let's go into an issue. Hello, Lansing. So the module that we chose was issue panel. And what that means is that, so here's our app that we just installed. Tap on that thing, it should open up an issue panel, and it should say, hello, Lansing.
Oh,
There it is.
that's familiar.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Lovely.
I understand the preview.
Yeah. Okay. So it and you could install this. I mean, not that you would install this, but you can install this across a gazillion instances, and it will be running that single piece of code that was already deployed in the cloud. You make a change to that code and you redeploy it, it'll be across all instances, just like that. All right. Let's see. All right, so we did all that stuff. Lovely. Okay, so let's dig a little bit into Forge, and I think that probably best to start with a little bit of history, kind of like where we came from, a little historical look back, particularly if you've been around Atlassian products for a while. So back in 2008, we introduced a platform called Plugins 2, and it's still used today for building apps on server and DC, like for all the on-premises products. I'll just say DC, like Jira Data Center, Confluence Data Center. Apps built on P2 are installed directly on that physical server behind the firewall if it is, and it interfaces with the host product like Jira through OSGI layers and APIs. And that's the on-prem side. In 2014, we launched something called Connect. It's a new generation framework for our cloud-based products. When you build an app with Connect, it's very different from P2 in the sense that after you build it, you have to host it on your own. Your app talks to the host product talks to Jira through APIs, iframes, webhooks, and APIs. Like that's kind of how your app that's running elsewhere will interface with the product. So when building P2 app for server DC, you can lean on that platform for storage, for logging, authentication, all that jazz. But in the cloud with Connect, you're responsible for building, maintaining, and hosting, make sure that it's resilient and it's reliable, it's performant, and it's secure. And there are some SDKs and libraries that help you get started, but ultimately you have to be pretty competent in cloud architecture, I think, to run like a scalable and secure, well-performing cloud app on Connect. So now we have Forge. It's our latest generation platform for extending our products. It was probably, I think it went GA just a few years ago, generally available. Significant advantages in that truly a simplified development. I mean, you saw how easy that was. I mean, even though we did kind of have we have some like Atlassian Connect Express and some things that kind of make things seemingly easy. To really stand up something that would be like production grade quality runtime wise, like there's nothing quite like this that we've ever done. Performance wise, it's fantastic to the point, like I said, we use it internally. The default security model is very sound. If you're running like full Forge native, you're not egressing any data out because you can optionally, and it's great for just delivering a fantastic user experience. We have I'll talk about the UI modules in a bit. So let's break all that down. So Atlassian hosted means that you're no longer thinking about managing infrastructure, right? Provisioning servers, worrying about scale. Forge, you just focus solely on like writing code, building awesome functionality. And by the way, this is not, it's not just Jira, it's Jira, Confluence, JSM, Bitbucket, as well as Compass. Serverless just means that, that term that we throw around just means that, again, these are, they work as, if you're familiar with AWS Lambda functions, essentially that's kind of what's under the hood. So you don't have to, again, not having to manage infrastructure. If all you have built are kind of very small things that really don't require a whole lot of infrastructure, perhaps this isn't such a big deal. But the moment that you start having an app, even if it's just within your company that has to crunch a gosh awful amount of data or just has more complex operations, like spending that time and energy and maintaining that is just like, you don't want to have to do that. but you have to if you have something that is fairly complex running on Connect. Rapid app development. What do I mean by that? It's quick to get started. You saw like that silly little hello world, but we often refer to Forge as kind of we don't say it's a no-code platform, obviously you have to code, but a low-code platform because it handles a lot of the heavy lifting for you, right? Manages authentication. You make API calls, you're not sending or you're not storing credentials and keys, right? You don't have to deal with any of that. Like all the OAuth handshakes are done seamlessly in the background. You can execute API calls as the app or as the user that's logged in as well. So that really helps simplify things. And lastly, there's over 40 like extension points and modules and 100. How many of you here have been to developer.atlassian.com and seen like the list of APIs? It's gargantuan. I mean, there's just a god awful amount of them. You have access to all of those, right, across all of our products. So if you want to build an app that like sits within the UI for, it's really nicely tightly integrated, or you want to do a back-end integration with some external system, or even like build a custom workflow, like Forge lets you do all that stuff. We have modules for all of that. All right. So the upshot here is that you focus more on the innovation and less on worrying less about infrastructure. All right. So we've talked about the benefits. What kind of apps can you build? So theoretically, countless types of apps that you can build. I kind of bucket them in 3 groups. You can add features and functionality within the UI. You can perform automation tasks in the background, triggered by events that might occur within the product. The user does something, you can have it trigger something, and all of a sudden, it'll automate those tasks. Or you can even provide integrations with external platforms as well. So first, for the in-product ones where it's integrated directly into the UI. As you know, there's gosh awful amount of views, particularly in Jira, and for screens, projects, boards, etc. And Forge gives you the ability to like integrate fairly smoothly in many, I don't want to say all, but a whole lot of those different areas within the issue view and within like project views. So one example, Divinity's got this dynamic forms app. I don't know why I like this one, but it's just. It's a nice, like, lots of like UI rich features. It's just very smart forms that are condition based, or even like it can kind of refer to your past user behavior within that app, and it has these really nice looking templates to make it very easy to get started, and it's fully integrated. You don't even know that you're leaving Jira. Because you're kind of in it, right? The next kind of app that I talked about was automations. And these are apps that can handle like complex workflow conditions, evaluate, inject data in the background, perform tasks and react to conditions, or even run like on a predetermined schedule. AutoPage from Seawork's an example of this, creates a Confluence pages from Jira issues. So that it's really about documentation, keeping things in sync. Config is done on the Jira side, and then all of a sudden automatically, pages get created in Confluence. And that was maybe not the best automation one, but I like it. Integrations. So any Forge app that would build like a pipeline between some external system and the stuff that you're doing on an Atlassian product. This is probably quite a popular one, AWS Service Management Connector for Jira Service Management. So customers can make their AWS service catalog visible like within JSM projects, and so. With this, you can manage all the provision resources that you have live on AWS. You can provision, update, you can even terminate like AWS processes directly from Jira Service Management, as opposed to going to the AWS console and doing those things. All right. Oh, I squeezed another one in here too. The AI tables. I don't know why that one's in there. That's a new one. Okay, so Forge goes beyond Jira, as I mentioned, JSM, Bitbucket, Compass, and Confluence as well. So Forge has extensibility points that are like common across all of them. If you go to the documentation, you'll go to the reference modules, and you'll see like common modules like triggers, etc. But then we have product specific ones as well, things that are were modules just built for Confluence or just built for Jira. So we're going to build another app on Forge. This time we're going to fix a little pet peeve that some of you might have when using Kanban boards. And so who can tell me what these things are?
Your workflow statuses.
Yeah, those are the default set of statuses you get when you create a new software project. They're life cycle stages that every bug or user story has to pass through. And they just don't float out there. They're linked together via transitions. How many here would consider yourself like an admin of Jira? No?
I mean, not of Jira, I'm project admin. I'm not allowed to be a Jira admin.
Okay. Again, more hands. I
I'm
love
too
it.
dangerous.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
So all these statuses are linked together by transitions, which just provide like a really orderly way for issues to progress from like one state to the next. And these transitions are executed when you drag, let's say, an issue from one column to another in a Kanban board, or if you update the status on an issue in the view issue screen, these transitions will fire. So this is very simple, but Jira admins use workflows for all kinds of things, right? All kinds of different processes, Agile and DevOps workflows, service desk, procurement, etc. Today, millions and millions of issues are transitioned every single day on Jira Cloud. So one of the cool things about workflows is that they're super extensible. You can customize them with a set of workflow modules, and allow you to gate whether a transition can even occur. And you can do all this in Forge. You can take an action after transition's taken place. There's a module, Forge module called condition, and it just does like very simple checks to determine whether a user can even attempt to execute a transition. There's built-in things like the only assignee condition, where only an assignee can execute it, or subtask blocking. Unless all the subtasks are checked off, you won't be able to transition. There's another kind of Forge module for workflows called the validator. A little more complex checks, and it checks in real time when the user attempts to actually transition. And common use case there is like field validation, to see whether there's a value set, or you can use comparative logic, regular expressions, etc., some pattern matching. And the last Forge module for workflows is called post functions, and these run async after an issue has already been transitioned to its new status. You might use this to automatically assign an issue, update a field value, clear out copy values, etc., after a transition has taken place. So Workflow Engine's been around for eons, so I'm sure a lot of you guys are like, why is he talking about this? So the exciting part, you can build all of these Forge apps against all of these custom conditions, validators, post functions with just a very few lines of JavaScript. In some cases, you don't have to use JavaScript at all. You can actually do it right inside the manifest, which is kind of crazy, just using Jira expressions. So it's exciting because it means you could build the custom integrations to link Jira workflows with other systems. You can write custom logic, validate fields are filled out, linked issues or attachments are in a good state before you transition these things. You can integrate AI, which we have an awesome demo for that I did not bring with me today. I know. Next time.
Next time.
Yes. All right. So I think I'm going to skip over this one. Yeah, let's skip over that one. One moment. Let me get to the right. Build one from scratch here. Ta-da! All right, let's do this. We're going to build something a little more useful than Hello World. We're going to use Forge to fix a little pet peeve. For those of you who practice Agile, you probably are, maybe you've seen this before. So do you guys know what work in progress limits are?
Yeah.
All right. So they're intended to improve workflow throughput. So if you're not familiar, it's basically a feature that lets you set a maximum number of issues inside of that work in progress column. But it really doesn't do anything. All it does, it turns the damn thing red.
Yeah, and you put like 40 in there.
Yeah, right. So,
I know because
yeah,
I've seen
You're
it
gonna show us
done.
the solution for this?
yeah, right now.
And it's not in Jira right now.
It's not in
No,
Jira.
it doesn't slap the person. that put
Your
it in.
pull request is starting.
No. They left it hanging just so that we can do this sweet demo.
Oh.
So anyway, it's pretty easy for people to ignore that. I mean, come on, it just turned red. That's a real. So we're going to build a workflow extension to actually enforce those limits. We're going to use, let's see. So we're going to use the validator module, and it's going to ensure that the maximum number of issues that can be in progress state. We're not actually going to pull the value from the configuration because I'm not sure actually how to do that. So we're just going to kind of hard code 3. And it's going to execute the validator in real time. So even when they attempt to, it's going to look like it's going to move over, but it's going to actually do the logic test. And if it fails, then it's going to send it right back.
Now I have a question, because we're doing this with Forge, but is that something that you could also do with your automation, right? Like, or no?
It's quite possible. So
Okay.
in fact, I actually get that quite a bit. Like, hey,
Like, how do you know when to use
script
Forge, when to
runner.
just use your
Yeah, right.
automation?
Sure. Yeah. And so there's definitely going to be some like potential feature duplicity that,
Sure.
parity, I'm sorry, that you could find between the two. Obviously, this one is just doing it in code. It can be a heck of a lot more programmatic and like controlled. Not to say that, automation's awesome, right?
And plus you
But,
can deploy it.
what's that?
You can deploy it to lots of different
That's
places
true.
instead
Yeah.
of having to do it by hand.
Yeah.
I was just wondering,
Yeah.
like, where we. draw
Now
the
I'm
line.
curious. I'll have to look it up in automation.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to save time. Actually did a little bit of a screencast recording because trying to jump between Keynote and Terminal is sometimes really sloppy.
You're telling me you have a demo to build a cocktail suggester?
I know,
I know. It's a good one. It would suggest a cocktail to the incident manager based on the severity of it. So we create an array. I know. We create an array of cocktails, and based on the severity matrix, we're like, oh, it's that one. You get a Long Island iced tea.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, that's next. All
That's
right.
what you need for
Okay, we're
research.
changing this event to Forge in 60.
So funny you say that, because last time I did a Forge in 40, they're like, you got about 25 minutes. I'm like, what? Forge in 25? So yeah. All right, so here, we're gonna head over to the docs, and we're gonna learn about like the syntax of the validator module, that thing I was just ranting and raving about. So go to developer.atlassian.com, go to reference, and go to modules, Jira modules, and at the very bottom are some of the workflows. So we're looking for the workflow validator. And what's awesome about this is that all of the syntax for both the manifest and code are in here. So we're just going to kind of copy and paste this stuff right from our docs and pop it into the manifest. And just do a little bit of cleanup in here. YAML is very particular. Let's give it a better name. Kanban work in progress. This is a name that's going to show up in the workflow tool in the product, and give it a good description. This validator will block if there is too much work in progress. And these little functions, part of the manifest, tell Forge where in your code, which code to execute, which functions to execute. So we're going to add a little validate function inside here. So again, back to the docs, and we're going to literally copy and paste the interface for this module. Pop it in here at the top. And for just kind of make things consistent, just add a couple of those, and then here, yeah, the interface is slightly different than the other one. So we're just gonna force it to fail so that we can kind of see it reject a transition. So you can see what our recording here is like. No starting work after drinking cocktails. That was our little test message. So we're going to deploy that. I don't think we wrote any code on here. I think we just copied and pasted a whole bunch of stuff. So now we're going to try to drag it over, and it should. Well, it's letting it go. Why is that?
It wasn't at the max, right?
So we can't.
No, we didn't even put that in. 1 second. Oh wait, I don't know if we upgraded this one.
This is a different site. T Pedersen, is that?
I'm sorry.
This site is T Pedersen.
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, that's who recorded it. Yeah. So we did not add it to the workflows. That's why. So now we have to edit these workflows. So if you're not an admin, if you're not familiar with this is how workflow transitions are added and validators are added. So there's no validators now in progress. And we're going to add the validator that was just added when we redeployed our app. And it should show up at the bottom, work in progress validator. So now we'll publish that. We'll go back to our board and try to drag a story over. And there it is. We reject it. And again, we're not checking the count yet, right? All we're doing is forcing it. So that result false. We're just forcing that, and we're going to change that logic a bit. So we're going to stub in some comments here. Let's determine how many issues that we want to limit in progress. So how many are currently in progress, and then only allow the transition to occur.
Yeah, are you typing?
No, he's not.
No.
I read that.
You're like, that guy is so slick.
I'm watching his fingers like, wait a minute now.
No.
The computer, it's recording. Okay, I was
It-
like,
It,
wow, like how is
it was live.
that? Okay, it was
But
like
no,
that
but
you could see something
we're
recording.
smart.
Okay.
We're getting smarter after we have to.
Sorry.
This is AI taking
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. Oh my. Actually, I will open the IDE to show you guys Codium. It knows Forge.
Okay, Forge in 75. Boom.
I'll show you in a bit.
Alright.
So what we're doing here, we're going to change it. It's going to make a call as the app, and we're just using JQL here. We're going to search for issues in progress. So we went to the docs, copied and pasted the example JQL search for the API call. We just paste that in. Now we're going to say project is going to be MOB and status is in progress. So didn't make any logic changes yet. All we did was add in this API call. We're gonna use this thing called Forge Tunnel, which basically means we don't have to deploy it. Every invocation of our Forge app will come back to our laptop, and it's gonna listen for requests. So now we can actually see like live console log data coming out into our laptop. So as we drag this, it'll get declined and kick it right back. But now when we go back to our terminal, we can see what did it do? It shows us the response from that API, that JQL search we just made. And that's the data we're looking for right there, the total field.
Okay.
So based on that total value, we're going to now update the rule. So let's save the total into like a variable, or actually we can just go directly into, change that false and say if results.
So now I get the tunnel thing.
What's that?
No, it's like, I know I understand the tunnel thing.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really cool, particularly if you don't want to deploy it to, if you have a bunch of test instances that you have it deployed into the development, and like you just want to do it for, the invocations just in that instance. It's great for like really quick testing. So now let's update our progress message. Our denial message, too much work in progress, please finish your current work. And then let's give it a whirl. So when you have the tunnel running, it'll auto detect when you save changes. So here we go. We'll drag the third in. It is maxed out. Let's try dragging a fourth in. And turns red, but it also kicks it back out and it sends that message, hey, too much work in progress. So you saw first of all, very few lines of human written code outside of copy paste. We just had to change change our GQL query basically from the sample that was on there. So simple use case. There's a whole lot of things you can do with validators. You can make sure that fields are filled out correctly, like linked issues and subtasks and attachments are in a good state before the transition can occur. From an integration standpoint, you can call out to remote APIs, validate that deployments are completed, feature flags are set, etc. Documents have been signed. Not that I've ever done that one, but before transitions can be before they're performed. And you can do it all dynamically when a user is attempting the transition. Also, if you're into compliance or if your responsibilities are around compliance, you could add like nice, dynamic compliance logic. So maybe like only certain people in certain groups can perform a transition. It's not during, holidays or when there's a code freeze. You can apply all those kinds of rules to this. Yeah. Anything you can think of, right? They're very, very versatile and like they're probably a very valuable thing to put in your tool chest. So to recap, we talked about who's using Forge, touched a bit on the history, some of the benefits, and then even showed some like really quick coding examples from Hello World to the workflow validators. So let's talk a little bit about the the fundamentals and things that I kind of breezed through. The CLI. So what the heck is CLI? It stands for command line interface. That's the tool that you use to create apps, to deploy them, to install them. You do it all from the command line. There is a view on developer.atlassian.com. You look at like a developer console. You can see all the apps that you've created. You can even see some really cool metrics and like how many invocations or how many times it's been run, etc. Particularly, and then if you have an app deployed into production, you can see like logs there as well on the console. But anyway, the CLI, that's your primary interface for all the things. It's very simple to use. You Forge create, Forge install. You saw me typing those things. If you just go to type in Forge and hit enter, you can see all the things that it can do. I mean, you can even have like set environment variables, things persist and reuse. Next fundamental part of Forge are modules. So that was an example of a workflow module. On our Hello World, we had a Jira issue panel module. They're the building blocks for your app, right? We provide modules that help you extend into the products. They define what your app is capable of doing, right? And then like the whole list of modules is up on developer.atlassian.com. So whatever your app needs module-wise, you just add it to your manifest. So in the Hello World app, again, we use the Jira issue panel module. It just adds an issue panel, as you saw when we did the Hello Lansing. There's a Jira project page. You're like, wait, I need more real estate. So let's go back. Jira project page. So if you are doing something like configuration, now you think that I need some more logic here. My transitions are all bumped. But if you have a big configuration screen or reports, right? Like you'd use that one instead. Obviously, you can't use it, the tiny little bit of real estate. Confluence has something too as well, like a global page module. And modules are just, I mean, a lot of them that we typically talk about or that you see on the docs really deal with the UI, but like the workflow one, it was kind of UI-ish, but there's other modules that are not just for UI. Like here's an example, like the product trigger UIs. So great for automation. They just can monitor like webhooks, right? They can monitor events that are taking place and then do something. Instead of a webhook, you actually instead of firing off to some external HTTP, it'll run a Forge function, right? That you define in your manifest. And it can be any kind of user action, adding a comment, deleting an issue, creating an issue. You can schedule, you can program triggers based on those events. So a whole bunch of them, issues created, comments being made, custom fields being set, etc. And you can get the whole list of them over on the docs. Scheduled trigger. If you guys know what a cron job is, like a scheduled time job, every 5 minutes, every hour, etc. You can have Forge functions automatically be invoked at set intervals. So I think that right now it's like hourly, weekly, daily. I'm not sure what other. I don't think you can do like 3-minute increments. I think it's just those increments.
You can kick off another job and have a wait time.
Yeah, you could do that too. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. There's some posts on the developer forum. Someone was asking about staggering stuff like that.
Was that you?
That's what I'm thinking about doing.
I was not your host.
No.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, you actually, you don't have to do that. There's another thing called web triggers where you define a web trigger, and really what that is, it's the ability to create an externally accessible HTTP, handle into your app. So this is what you would use for an external integration. So if something happens on your CRM that's outside of Atlassian, and you want to, invoke a function, you can do that with using web triggers. So you can have your own scheduler elsewhere if you want to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is there a module that like creates a queue where you can create a queue of things you can bulk?
There is an asyncs job module. There is. There are some caveats and limitations to that too, but I'm not going to cover that today.
Okay.
No worries. All right. So gobs of modules for Jira. Okay, as I said, there's common modules across all products, and then there's very product specific ones. And you just have to add the module to your manifest. How are we on time? I'm like way over here.
You're doing just fine.
All right,
Our meeting is scheduled until 7:15, so you've got extra time if you want.
Lovely. Permissions. So for any of you that are admins, you want to probably know, like, hey, how can I control what this app can do? So whenever you want to dictate what, I guess if you're familiar with the APIs, all APIs have like scopes, and whether that you have read or write permissions, all those things you would define as scopes inside your manifest. So there are product scopes. So if you want to make an API call authenticated, make authenticated calls against the Jira API, you just have to set the correct scopes, and you can see for every single API method, you can see what the required scopes are in the documentation, and just make sure that those are added to your manifest in your Forge app. Otherwise, you'll just get an error. In fact, I think that the linter might even, before you can even deploy, it might even detect those errors. And there's a neat little feature where you can auto fix them. But anyway, so defining scopes, very simple to do inside the manifest, and you just have to, again, copy and paste what those required scopes are. Okay, content permissions. I think this is that's a little heavy, and external permissions too. So if you are doing external integrations, let's say you're doing something with OpenAI, you're doing something with whatever external thing, you have to put into your manifest, like tell it where it's allowed to make external calls to, right? And then if someone does install the app, let's say you kind of made it semi-public and you have an admin like officially install it through the UI, then it'll prompt them like, hey, are you sure you want to install this app? Because it's going to be making calls to this, to this external service. I think we chose this one because we do have a sample app that does use Microsoft's language translator. Additionally, if you're building a custom UI app and you have any assets that are hosted elsewhere, JavaScript or CSS assets or whatever, you have to also declare them, like where those things are, and then it'll allow the app to pull those things down. Okay. Forge permissions. Okay, the manifest. So manifest looks like that. It is a YAML file, yet another markup language. Often used for configuration kinds of things, but it just describes your app. These are the modules that your app wants to use and the permissions required. There's a little bit of other like data below, like your app ID that's completely unique to your app. But other than that, it's just the modules as well as the permissions. Like those are the kind of the two biggest parts of your manifest. Looks like that. Environments. So you create a Forge app, you automatically get your dev, staging, and prod. We're only using development in our examples here, but your team can utilize these if they are really staunch supporters of CI/CD practices, and you can add things like environment variables as well. So key value pairs based on on the 3 different environments, and set those variables. It's set variables again. Forge variables list, Forge variables set, and it's how you set it. You can set and get environment variables. Oh, and why would you use these? API keys, credentials, things that you might do like in your deploys or your testing. Do you use any of you guys use those at all?
I'm storing it in normal Forge storage. I'm wondering if that's a better place to put it, actually.
If it has to do with like specific to those environments, like, then probably a better place would be here.
Yeah, that's good.
Everything by default was in development, but if you wanted to change, switch over to production, it's just a flag -E and type in production, and there it is. I fly through this here. So we covered the CLI modules, permissions, a little bit about environments and deployments. So early in the talk, I mentioned that Forge is built with the intent on simplifying development. 82% of the apps on the marketplace that are built on Forge were done in 3 months or less, which is huge. I mean, when we first, mind you, when we first launched Forge, before it went GA, even when it went GA, partners were telling us like, there's no way we can't do that there because we can't do these things, and like development times are taking a long time. The amount of investment that's gone into Forge has been significant, and the amount of progress is pretty damn significant too. So now I say if we had what we had today and brought it back to 2021, we probably would have been hearing of that, and we would have had very similar kind of dev cycles as quick. And it's pretty impressive to see somebody go from like building POC to having something that they feel very confident that they can have hundreds or thousands of customers using their apps. So where can you get started? Well, this room you guys already know. Everyone seems to be very familiar. For those that are remote, just go to go.atlassian.com/forge-101. It's going to take you to a bunch of tutorials and examples. We have a growing list of sample apps that we're building. Every time we come up with like a new module or modify a module or add some feature, we feel it's like incumbent upon us to put out a new sample app, that will show how we can take advantage of that. And you just download those repos. The only extra command you'll have to type in is Forge register, which will essentially create a new app ID and register under your account. And then you're off to the races. Like, it's really that simple. I think we have and if you haven't seen them yet, if you're really not familiar with Forge, we have these little 5-minute videos called Forge in 5, and it kind of goes over each of the parts of Forge. We want to keep on investing in that because they've done pretty well, and people have responded pretty well to those. So if you haven't seen them yet, I highly recommend it. Always creating new content. All right, that's all I brought with me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What's next for Forge? What are they working on now?
Oh my goodness.
Proprietary.
No, I mean, obviously there's always improvements, but like there's a new runtime that we have. So one thing that is not shown in whenever you create a new app, let me go to here.
Tyler, did you record this?
Yes.
Let's go to
Sometimes same result.
Alex also says thanks, Neil.
Oh, you're welcome. So if you're already familiar with Forge, I highly recommend you add these to your manifest. They're not done by default when you do a Forge create, because it's not, I wouldn't say that it's full GA yet, but this will run on our new runtime. If you have this, not only is it extremely fast in terms of deploys and run execution, but also you don't need Docker for the tunneling. It bypasses that entirely. So new-ish. All the UI Kit 2 stuff is flowing out now. If you follow the change logs on developer.atlassian.com, you can see all the stuff that's shipping. Yeah. In terms of stuff that's like on horizon, I mean, I think that we do actually publish like Forge roadmap stuff, and I think that I've seen some things around data residency is a big deal. A lot of very big ask, particularly from EU, and I think there's a whole lot of work going on there.
That's something we're waiting for internally too.
Yeah,
We have HIPAA projects.
yeah. So I think that there's probably some work around FedRAMP as well. So yeah. I mean, and those don't sound so sexy and awesome, but like they're super important for a lot of partners, right? And for a lot of customers. So that's a big focus there. But I think the roadmap wise, I think they do publish these.
Yeah, it's on Trello.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if is this still up to date?
I guess so.
Oh, good. I don't know. I gotta check that one out. But yeah.
So I had a question. I don't know if we're in the question.
Yeah,
here.
I was just gonna add real quick, there's like quarterly videos normally too, are they still doing those, kind of the new developments? I think it was rolled in the conference last quarter, so I can link those up.
Yeah.
But, sorry, go ahead.
No, he's making me my app, so he gets to ask the questions first. Oh, Jared gets what Jared wants. But I did have a question about some of the modules, because I know we're using the issue module right now to do add a button and to preview some stuff. But I didn't know if we can, like, how deep into Jira can we go? Like, can we get into like the bulk screen or the actions menu? Are there modules that allow us to add things in there? Because I know Jira automation goes in there, but can we with Forge get in there?
That's a good question. So I mean, if there are any areas that are absolutely mission critical that you don't see, let me pull up here.
Keep seeing Manzilla, and all you introduced himself as Neil. I thought, okay, is that some takeoff on Godzilla?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Destroying
geez.
the Forge city.
I mean,
Like, oh, I get it now, why it's called that.
Did I completely disconnect, by the way? Am I still on?
You're not sharing your screen
you're not
anymore.
sure.
I think I actually disconnected. Anyway, we could take this offline, but
Sure.
yeah, but if you find basically there's not an area within the product and you're like, gosh damn, we have to have something in there.
Yeah.
There's a place to raise those issues.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And it's just a kind of matter of like critical mass, right? So,
Sure.
and it's not just like votes, but it's also like who's asking for it as well, like externally. Imagine
Yeah.
some of the very large partners or very large customers coming, like, son of a bitch, we need this thing there.
Yeah.
It has more gravity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
If you find something. Now, I mean, there's two ways, like I said, to build out a UI. You can use the pre-built components, and there's also the custom UI. Custom UI is a heavier lift. But I'm not sure exactly how you guys are building it. But the UI Kit 2 stuff is pretty, I see it's still kind of rolling out and pretty new. Yeah.
I'm mostly trying to get into the bulk transition screen.
Okay. Show me, and then I'll.
Yeah, I'll show you after. We will literally show you.
Any plans to bring like Forge support to like Atlas or product discovery? Like, is that?
So
there?
yeah, I mean, how there is a core team that builds out like the Forge, like the Forge platform, but they're not responsible for building out, like going into each of the products. Like they work with those product teams to do that. So I think it's a matter of like, is it a priority for those particular teams?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
okay.
Not to ship our organization into our discussion here, but like that's kind of how it works.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a team that like builds like the core Forge platform, and then we have, you know, and they work with those other teams to do that. So the short answer is I think every team has thought, yes, we definitely have to get on this train one day. For some teams, obviously Jira and Confluence is actually like super imperative because there's such a huge rich ecosystem behind them. But in terms for like JPD, and I mean, you saw Compass is all over this, and so is Bitbucket. It's not just Jira and Confluence, as well as JSM. But yeah, some of the other products too, for sure. They have people that are starting to put a lot more, feeling a lot more pressure, I would say, from some customers to have some Forge goodness in there.
Yeah, I think a lot of those products, it makes a lot of sense. It's like built by developers for developers who are developing.
Yeah, it's very meta.
Yeah.
It is very meta.
Yeah.
You've only said like really good things about Forge and you've showed it to us, but are there any like shortcomings of Forge that you've heard from like customers and partners?
Yeah, I mean, there are. I mean, the runtime implications. Like imagine you build a business intelligence tool that has to analyze stuff, and like it might take an hour. You know what I mean? Like the invocation times on functions is not.
Gotcha.
You know, there's a limit to that. There are some things that some partners say that they probably architecturally just doesn't make sense for them, right? I think that gap has been shrinking a bit because again, the more capabilities and more horsepower, I think that we've been put into Forge and the things that they've been shipping, But there are still some things that some partners, and they're not doing it, saying this to be contentious or to be pains in the butt. They're just saying it just doesn't make sense, and it'd be really difficult for us to even try to squeeze it into the architecture that you've created, right? But yeah, and if you go to develop our community forums, you'll see plenty of people complaining about certain
I
things,
see like
certain
any
aspects.
forum, yeah, you see that.
Yeah. No, but they're
I sift
good.
through the noise.
But
like,
they're
what's
no,
really
but they're
happening.
good, and it's not too noisy. It really isn't.
Okay.
So it's not like Reddit. These people have like the very legitimate like, not just gripes. I mean, either complaints or just suggestions, and they're very constructive. Some might you might view it as like, some people might view it as contentious because some of the comments get a little snarky. But honestly, I mean, all that stuff is welcome, right? Because I mean, they're kind of in it for. They're in it to build something useful, right? And like, if it's not meeting it, but you'll find them there. Community.developer.atlassian.com.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny that snark, it comes from emotion triggered by wanting something.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So-
Yeah, and even internally, like there are some folks that like they read that and look, wow, why is everybody so angry? I'm like, they're not angry, man. You don't get it. Like, yeah, of course they're frustrated, perhaps, right? But they really just are trying to open up with some hailing frequencies with us, not just to voice transgressions because they want to vent, and for therapeutic reasons, they're doing it because they want to see some action because they're trying to do something, right, and deliver something. So yeah, there's like the livelihood of a lot of partners is built on these things that these other teams internally are building, right? So yeah, I'd say though the leadership that's in place today is really, really like in tune and like listening. I would say like the leaders have spent more time with our partners than I've ever seen before, and it's pretty fantastic. So yeah.
So this might be out of the scope of this conversation, but what could you tell us about what the bug bounty program looks like and what it actually looks like to get something on the marketplace once you have an application built? Are you a part of that?
So the security team is the one that kind of manages the bug bounty program. So if people aren't familiar with the bug bounty program, then essentially it's a way for, so Atlassian essentially pays for like the leasing of that platform. And for some reason I'm blanking on their name, but so you don't have to pay any upfront costs, but if you want to put up a bounty for like different level of severity of issues that you might be found on your app, partners can leverage that platform, and it has found quite a bit. Like every OWASP violation, like things on the OWASP top 10, you'll see pretty much like mirrored of them finding things like that on apps, and it's pretty awesome. It's neat to see. And my gosh, the clever as hell. It's so funny to hear, like, it's kind of part of like the fabric now. Before it was trying to convince partners to go with the bug bounty program. Now like a lot of them are participating. So your second part was, how is it to get onto the marketplace?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's an app submission process and review process. There's and like in different levels of, I guess, like accreditation, right? Like you see, like it's cloud certified, it's this and that. So I don't know, like there's some of it is marketing side-ish, some of it is, it's all in service of trying to make it very trustworthy and, rock solid marketplace. Some customers don't really differentiate. They have an app for all intents and purposes. It's an Atlassian thing, even though it's not, right? So a lot easier, I'd say, if you build a fully forged native app, because a lot of the security issues are essentially handled that way if you're not egressing any data away, as opposed to building a Connect app or some other app that does egress data away. But it's a process still. Like, we get a lot of submissions, and there's a whole host of people that's all they do is review these things. So that's their full-time job. Like a big team of people that do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess as far as future things, as we have an app that integrates with a map right now, so we were using the custom made, like a Google map to put down pins or whatever. Well, it's not confidential.
Stop recording.
He's gonna build it in 20 minutes and like publish it. Ditch Witch 2.0, right?
Yeah, so right now it's using Atlas Kit on React.
Okay.
So sort of one of the challenges is that Atlas Kit is on an older React, so that's
Yeah.
probably one of the normal ones. It sounds like, is UI Kit 2 the way going forward?
It is the way to go forward, yeah.
Okay.
Now, the state of it in terms of what your use case is, I don't know where that lies, but that is the tree you want to be barking up, is anything UI Kit 2.
Yeah.
For sure.
And when is that TA?
That I don't know for certain. I mean, there are certain, maybe on the docs are still things that are rolling out, they're still putting developer preview on it. For all intents and purposes, things that they're shipping feel like, we don't say that even if we don't say that it's GA, like internally, it's pretty damn rock solid. But yeah, that's the route you want to be going down.
Okay.
And then even like posting on community forums if you're running into any issues. I mean, it's so important that if you guys run into any problems, post it there as well as like file bugs, because there's a whole developer support team now. Like when we used to run it, there were like 2 people doing it. Now there's a huge team that's only dedicated to developer support that now is in our like a formal support organization. And yeah, so there's like people listening. And like I said, leadership is so invested in platform side of things now. I mean, Mike and Scott, the founders, have always been since day one, but like, yeah, we've never seen any like the momentum that we have right now. So if you have something very specific, like Ken, that you're like, we need to get our UI onto this screen, etc. Or I'm having some issues with, we want with your integration. Or the library's disparity between Atlas Kit and the React stuff, like voice it.
Yeah,
It's important.
Yeah, it's I guess it hasn't caused any too big of problems yet, but just it's kind of a concern, especially like keeping secure versions of libraries and stuff, things like that. So it sounds like UA Kit might be the way around it. Luckily, it's a pretty reasonably small app and everything right now, so
Yeah.
we can probably do that.
You can find plenty of Atlas Kit gripes on the community forums. Yeah.
Yeah, I know how it is. I worked at a similar company before, so kind of pulling everything together. So
Yeah.
I understand, anyways.
Are all of you guys employed here
In the past, I worked
at this firm?
and
Okay.
here now,
Yeah, like right now.
Now we are.
right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
everyone's here.
I'm sorry?
Well, all of us here work for Kalen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And online now too, so it's like a private session.
It does feel like a private
Private
session.
Can we ask our questions?
We do have a few like external people that come in,
Who's
but
online?
not this time.
Alex,
Alex
right?
and Tony,
Callan or Whalen?
Whalen.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, no, that didn't come out right. I
Thank goodness.
Did you guys online have any questions?
Just have to wait for the chat, right?
Yep,
7 seconds.
pause for chat. Tony says, I'm only the second choice, Tony.
No, you're the first choice, Tony. That's why I asked.
So as a developer advocate, what do you like do specifically, like champion?
Yeah,
for
so I mean,
across the country,
how
world?
we advocate on behalf of anyone that actually uses these APIs.
So
And it's mostly external, right?
Okay.
Even though we have a lot of internal use, it's really about, one of our core values of our company is don't F the customer.
Mhm.
And like, our line is don't F the developer, right? That's kind of
Oh,
our
okay.
value. So imagine something rolls out and there was an adverse effect on an API as an example, right? Like we try to stay on top of all of that and try to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Of course, those product and engineering teams don't want that to happen, but it's always secondary to, let's say, like the primary product, right? When it comes to like anything they might inadvertently break on the APIs, like where the team tries to. So we're actually split. The developer experience team is both like extensibility standards as well as developer advocacy and like
Okay.
developer relations kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that split was fairly new, and that the left side, my left side, the developer, like extensibility standards, they're the ones who are really trying to like codify that, like, hey, this is how we do APIs, and this is how we do changes, right? From a product perspective, I mean, I'm not a paying customer, but I say generally, I would say we do that better than what we do on the platform side, right? Yeah, you know, we treat like change management on that side. On the product side, you know, very sensitive to that because we have to be. But on the platform side, you know, sometimes things fall through the cracks, right?
Gotcha.
Sometimes. And so that would be one example of something that we would like strongly advocate for. Or if Kim and let's say a whole bunch of other partners are like, we got to get into that, you know, we need to get some things onto the bulk action screen. So that would be like something that we would advocate for, right? And like I said at the top of the thing, it's advocacy, education, all those things, and support, right? That's kind of our role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alex said that he doesn't have any questions, but it was very helpful.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.
Awesome.
I just wanted to leave a quick anecdote. So we did two things with Forge. One was the map, which is hopefully going to get to the marketplace soon. And then I think, don't we have like, I guess it ended up being like 2 months or like a month, probably a month from, we had a script runner that we wanted to get into prod, and it was really easy to port it. I had like proof of concept in like 2 days.
I wouldn't think it was a day. He's like, we can do a Forge app. And then it's like, next time I check, here's a proof of concept of the Forge app. And we've used it and rolled it out internally to like 4 or 5 projects that are using it. And
More.
I know, I'm so tired. I can't, like, there's in production. No, there's 4 people in production using it. There's 2 or 3 more in the sandbox using it.
Yeah.
And then we're still rolling it out. We have like 3 or 4 more left
Yeah.
teams to roll it out. And so that's why there's some things there's some places I don't know if we can get that I really wanted something in the full screen to save us problems, but we can work around it. But we are using the issue preview.
Yeah.
And that's been really great. I did have a question. Maybe you can ask. I'm getting picky now. I'm a product owner. So this side hustle app, but formatting, because we're using the issue and it gives you that little preview, but I think the formatting is limited on that, right? Because we're trying to do that table with that line in.
Yeah, so it's still the UI kit 1, so we just have to make it reactive, try out UI kit 2, that'd probably be good.
So UI kit 2 might have some formatting in that one, yeah, because we're trying to format the little thing. I don't know if we can actually show, because I'm looking at you guys.
Yeah, don't.
No, okay, we won't show. But yes, yeah, so but we had some questions, like there were some formatting limitations but now we're thinking UI kit 2 might.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, you know, where it is in the backlog, and I was gonna say, it was a really nice timely change to add that 55-second timeout to those async calls, because that we would have run into that, so that came in just in time.
Nice.
It was more for the AI, it sounds like, we're not using AI, but
Yeah.
that's a good example of being responsive to the community.
Yeah,
so.
I think there was our code guys hackathon was happening too, and it was really AI focused, right? And they're like, well, shit, we got to make some calls out to these external providers, and it's not coming back as quickly as it needed to be. That might have been one of the nice catalyzing factors there, but yeah.
Ours was a little less exciting than AI for that, but it's at least to get done. So
Yeah, we did an open AI integration to do like user story validation, right? That they were well-crafted user stories. And if it was not a well-crafted one, it would tell you why in a comment.
We need that.
Yeah,
We have that,
it was less than 30 lines of code. Yeah, I think it's open source. I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah,
It's
please.
so damn neat. I mean, it's open AI, so I'm not sure if you guys, unless you have a contract with them, whether you want to send them any data. But the idea of just being able to, harness and integrate with something so damn powerful in so little lines of code is pretty damn cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
You suck as a business. They'll tell you the message.
Yeah.
Might get rid of a lot of fluff in our stories. Right, Jay?
Your stories. Your stories, Jeff. Mine are great.
It's like the comic, like
I'm at Wick.
I know.
Okay.
I know what you meant.
Okay.
I meant Wick.
Yeah.
Someone writes 2 sentences, it's like AI expand this into a full email, and then someone receives the email, and it's like AI. summarizes
Oh,
it into 2 sentences.
it. That's one of the first things I thought of when I saw the tool of like, hey, have this and read your email for you. I'm like, do you mean the email that was composed using AI as well? Machines talking to machines. Oh my Lord, it's ripe for bad things to happen. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, we're so lazy. We're so lazy. Oh, but Codium. It's like GitHub Copilot, right? But it's a plugin for Visual Studio. Oh my goodness. You just stub your source with comments. Say I need a function to do this. And it knows it's forged contextually because it sees a manifest. And you can even say, hey, I want to make sure there's an Atlassian forge function that does this. Give it as much context as you can, and all of a sudden it starts suggesting things for you.
Really?
Oh my God. It's mind blowing. Actually, it was one of our advocates was giving a live demo, and I think he had Codium going. Here, watch this. Oh, let me pull up one. Yeah, it's Codium is one I've been using lately, and it is just awesome. Here, let's go to the Hello Lansing since we were just in there. So let's say I wanted to. Let's see. Wait, what was that? Yeah, let's see. Pull up all Jira issues that are overdue. Let's see if it does it. Oh, damn it. No, let me back to see. I'm gonna deactivate it for this. It just suggests functions for you, and it's like, you gotta be joking. Like, how the hell? And
wow, that's really cool.
I know, it would be even cool if it worked. I don't know why. It's not
Well, I mean, I assume that it does what you're saying.
It does, and it's
Right,
mind blowing.
And it suggests you these are all the ways you get. It's like us doing the Google search, but in your console.
Yes, it is. It
Right,
is right
that's
into
what I
your
do,
code. I mean, some of it is just ever so slightly off, right? Maybe syntactically, and then you can even tell it like, hey, it'll give you like 5 alternatives. Like, okay, maybe not that one, maybe this one over here, and then you can just tell it like, no, I need to do this like this. That's not quite right. And then, oh, sorry about that, because they always apologizes. Large language models do, very apologetic. And then it fixes it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a crazy town. Yeah, I know.
That's very cool.
I know. Anyhow, Codium, I'd give that, or I mean, even GitHub Copilot's good too, but like, it's mind blowing, really. We're in a different time.
When's the next time you'll be in Michigan? Well, where is home base for you? I don't even know.
So I kind of split my time here because of family.
Okay.
Helping take care of some family, and let's make sure this doesn't get up on YouTube.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and stop the
Yeah,
recording.
thanks.